Hello there, and welcome to UK Diesel and Electric Railway Modelling. And just as an ambulance goes by rather loudly, as well, of course. But anyway, so yesterday I went to the DEMU show, the Diesel and Electric Modelers United Model Railway Society. It's the show that I say we, because I'm a member of the Model Railway Society and also the vice chair for a second year. So it's my favourite show of the year. It really is. So I've been doing this hobby for a long, long time, more than 25 years. And DEMU set up as a Model Railway Society because back in the early 90s, you would go to a model railway show, and if you were lucky, you'd find a diesel electric era layout. Most of the layouts back then were steam train layouts, and it was the 25th anniversary for DEMU this year. There was a couple of model rail shows in the early 90s, 92, 93, 94, and I think it was 95. Now, this was when Rail magazine used to have a 16-page supplement that came with the magazine. And they basically set up their own show. There were a few of them. One of them was in Manchester in '93, Urmston. But other ones were down in what's it called? Just up from Watford Junction. There's a branch line. I forgot the name of the place. Anyway, so and it was a great show, and so DEMU started as a society, and then later on started running a show. So we've been doing shows for a number of years. It was a little bit harder this year because the place we were going to be having the show, traditionally we'd had it at the Burton-on-Trent Town Hall, but unfortunately we'd had some issues here and there. One of them being that we ended up with a snap election, and we ended up losing a room because that was the room that he was storing the postal ballots in, and it had to be kept isolated. So unfortunately, one of the useful rooms that we usually put demonstrator stuff in, and also the second-hand trade stuff, it would all go in there. Anyway, so we went for a leisure centre in Burton-on-Trent. And unfortunately, they decided to cancel the booking because they wanted to use the space to turn into a gym or something like that. So we ended up having to go to Swaddling Coat, and it was a good. It's not a bad place. The space is good. It was the way they set everything up this year. The showcase team, they did a fabulous job, and. I only had two complaints about it, really. One of them was that it was a bit warm in there, but that's what happens in leisure centres when you've filled it with like 1,000 people or however many it is that seem to be there. But you fill a room with a lot of warm-blooded people, and the temperature rises. And the second one is Swaddling Coat is a bit of a cow to get to. It's several miles out of Burton-on-Trent. And trying to make sense out of the bus timetable is a little bit confusing. I ended up getting a taxi, and a special thanks to someone who helped me out with the cost of that. He was going to give me a lift originally, but he was unable to, thanks to booking stuff. So, but the quality of the show was great. Sadly, I didn't even get to see it all. I was too busy chatting away to people because I do like talking about trains, and having the opportunity to chat to some guys, like Mark Lambert and Mike Cubberley about wagons and things like that. Oh, that's fantastic stuff. I probably spent 25, 30 minutes just there. And then I spent a similar time chatting with Colin Craig about, some of the wagon stuff that he's been doing. Those are areas that I have a good knowledge of, but they have a really specific knowledge of. And so I can vacuum up some of the concepts that they talk about. So that's an opportunity for me to, gain knowledge that I don't have, because, like I say, I've got a great knowledge of things, just got some gaps. Hello, Cottesmore, how are you doing? And by the way, just a thing, I like talking about trains. I like talking with other modelers about trains. So if you want to join, you're quite welcome to. And I know, Cottesmore, I know you've done that. So if you want to join, just pop it in there and you can come and join me. We can chat about stuff. So what did I do? So, sorry, I was talking about something. I didn't get to see it all because I turned up a bit later than I normally like to. I normally like to be there before the show even opens. But I wasn't able to get there until a bit later. Being trans, it takes a bit longer to get ready in the morning. I didn't even get to do my nails. And then, I also, because I'm a member of the committee, I had to deal with some admin stuff. So we had a meeting for an hour and a half during the show, ready for the AGM that follows it. So as a result, time that I would have normally been able to sort of whip around the show, on the video camera, I didn't get to see. I didn't get to do. And so I hardly got to see any layouts at all. In fact, the only one I went and parked myself in next to was Hornsey Broadway. And there wasn't much going on because it was the last 30 minutes. And at the last 30 minutes, people start sort of winding down. So there's less stuff moving. But so yeah, now I snapped up a few bargains and a few things that I really needed. Well, I snapped up one bargain, really. Other stuff was stuff I needed. And so this is one of them. This is a Parkside kit. This is the pipe wagon, and I've got a number of them already. Now you see, Cottesmore has said it was the same when myself and New Junction were at Worley. Hardly any time to see what we wanted. That's the thing about Worley. Worley is a big show, and I hardly ever look at layouts at Worley. I'm usually talking to manufacturers or fellow DEMU modelers, catching up with people. So for me, it's more of a social thing, and DEMU is very much of a social thing as well, because it is a society full of people that do the same kind of modeling I do, or do it to the same kind of detail. So it's it's really useful to be able to, like I said, catch up with friends, talk about things that really, I really enjoy. So the Parkside kit. So it's, this is an old kit. It's been around for a long time. This is obviously one of the early ones that didn't have wheels in it, unless they took them out. But by looking at the text for the instructions, this is obviously one of the old ones. And I think I've already got 3 or 4 of these, plus 10 that I've converted into ODA open wagons. Now there's a second train that I want to do of these, and that's what this one's for. And it's the Mercury opens. So there was a train or a series of trains that would go around the country, and it laid down optical cable beside the railway. So, the concrete troughing, it would lay down cabling in that or next to it. And it was used for, if you remember the Mercury telephones, like, you'd have the BT phone and have another one next to it maybe, and it had, the little Mercury button. So that's what those were. That was the British Rail telecommunication system. And, they would go all around the country laying concrete troughing trains. And just so you can see, here's an example. Some class 31s running around with these, and they were just old BR pipe wagons. They had a couple of brake vans, one LMS one and one BR type one. Some of them had mesh screens over the top. And so, like I say, they would use them for transporting cable. Well, the cable would go on different wagons, but yeah, they travel around all over the place. There's the other brake van there, and they're just, there you go. You can see full of concrete troughing. I could do with getting a load of concrete troughing to put in them. And there's one with the mesh over the top. So I haven't decided whether I'll do ones with mesh on the top. I don't think so. So yeah, they're really useful. You know, and not only that, I mean, you can see the some of the cable laying vehicles. So there'd be a big axle on it with a big cable drum on it, and that's where they would feed the cable off. So there you go. You can see one there. So yeah, so like I say, this is BR Telecommunications, and they're just standard. Do I have pipe? There you go. So they're just a cleaned up version of the SDV BR pipe wagon in departmental service. And you know, you can mix them with brown ones as well, because they still had a few. So yeah, like this. So that you know, they in terms of departmental stuff, with these that was either grey or yellow, having some brightly coloured blue vehicles just adds a bit of colour to it. And so that's what that will be. I've got 2 on the go already. Need to get some wheels for these though. So another thing that I bought, and it was a reasonable price as well, £25, was this Class 370 with split head code 37049 body shell. Now, I already have not a model of this in this livery, but I do have this in this livery now. And it's been on my model list since the early 90s. I used to have a Lima one just like this. And so when it came up for 25 quid, which is a reasonable price, which is actually pretty much of a bargain for a body shell these days. And you know, I've got a choice. I can either take the body shell out of a model that I already own, or I could just buy another chassis if I can find one reasonably priced, and turn this into a fully working loco. It also came with the nameplates. Now I'm going to be doing this in a slightly different period to other people. I'm doing it towards the end, just before it got repainted into civil engineers livery, which happened in, I think it was late 92, something like that. If I remember correctly, I'll find out in a second. And 9. So 37049 was a bit of an oddity. It was the only split head code, you know, unrefurbished split head code 37 to carry coal livery. All the other ones were center head code ones or refurbished ones. So this one's an oddity, and I'm doing it in like this with the black painted head codes and black names. Also with a I don't know if you can quite make it out, but with a Motherwell depot plaque as well. So that adds to it. I mean, this is how Bachmann have done the model. Also notice the oleo buffers instead of oval ones, which are standard on 37s generally speaking. And comically, and that's why I joke, you know, I said it was amusing. Pretty much as soon as they painted it into coal livery, they transferred it to rail freight metals. So there are hardly any photos of it pulling coal trains. they are almost always metals trains. I mean, ironically, this is a coal train, but it was used when they used to shift things around a bit. Out of Motherwell, they used to have triple-headed metals trains and some coal trains, but and sometimes bankers as well. But generally, you know, like this is a metals train here, a fairly unusual one, probably a Weymouth train then. And so, yeah, this works out just nice. Things that I'm going to have to do to it is, obviously, I've got the BR arrows and depot plaques, and also I'm going to have to put the tiny numbers on the front there and paint black around there. Obviously, repaint the nameplate and stick it on. So it's not going to take a lot of effort to turn this into a nice model. So hello, Contemporary Railway Scenes, and hi, New Junction. Hi, Richard. It was great meeting you yesterday. That was really a highlight of my day. So yeah, and one of the other things about this loco, one of the reasons for doing it, is because there aren't many locos that carried Motherwell depot plaques. And so this is an opportunity to have at least one loco with a Motherwell depot plaque on it. So there it was with stupidly large numbers on the end. But this, you know, is well in fitting with steel trains. And you can see the steel trains got around. I mean, this is a loco with Motherwell depot plaques. Didn't have black head code on there. Had Motherwell depot plaques and is seen on the southern region at Eastleigh. So, and Southampton. So, yeah, this is how Bachmann have done it. So, like I say, it really managed to get around. But it was in metals. It was owned by Rough Rip Metals. So, like I say, getting this, it was a bargain. Saved me having to paint a loco. I'm probably going to end up redoing the roof fan at some point. So that's that one. So what else did I buy? So I bought some nameplates. I bought from Shoreplan. I went first thing I did was go to Shoreplan because last year I went to buy a couple of things and couldn't get them because by the time I got there, he'd sold them all out. So I made sure, okay, first place, Shoreplan. So I got some the Girls Brigade nameplates for 90002 when I get a Class 90, and 90022 Freight Connection. Now, 90022 is I'm modelling the East Coast Main Line in the sort of Leeds-ish area, although or when I make a layout. And in the early 90s, 1992, 93, and right up to about 96, actually, the East Coast, Intercity East Coast, hired a couple of 90s a day, you know, for on Mark IV trains, because the Class 91s back then, the availability was not as good as they expected. So hi Scrap Line and hi Neil Hall. So they hired Class 90s to make up the shortfall, and and two of the ones that I'm going to do is 90022 and 23 for on East Coast Main Line services. And here is a picture of 90022. And you can see, compared to the new Bachmann Loco, if you know enough about them, that it's got black around the side. Because originally, these were painted in Intercity livery when they were first built. The first 25 were. 26 to 36 were painted in mainline livery, which is basically Intercity, but there's no yellow, no white on the bottom. So it's it's got the beige underneath. Why don't I just show you a picture of a 90 in mainline livery? It's easier. There we go. So it's kind of like intercity livery, except for that it doesn't have the white on the ends there, and white on the bottom. And it looks a little cleaner. This I think I really do like mainline livery. It's one of my favorites for Class 90. Sadly, it didn't live too long. Only lasted for about maybe 10 years at most. But yeah. So in 1992, in fact, I'll leave you looking at that picture for a couple of seconds. I'm going to get a magazine because, and I know exactly where it was because I was reading it the other day. Give me a couple of seconds. Okay, I'm back. So, in 1992, in September, what was it? August, I suppose. August the 26th. So, rail freight distribution. It's an irony talking about what's been going on in politics. What I'm going to talk about now. So, the Freight Connection exhibition in 1992. It was about, the Channel Tunnel's about to open very soon. So we're going to be integrating transport more. So it's like, okay, so rail freight distribution, they decided that they would repaint. Scott Malcolm, sorry. What was the purpose of mainline livery? I've mentioned this a couple of times before. So mainline livery was, and I apologize for going off on tangents. So what happened was that there were some trains where locos would be used for mixed traffic stuff. So you would have something like on the West Coast Main Line, Class 86s and 87s that were used on steel coil trains north of Crewe and Carlisle kind of area. So they would go from Crewe to Moss End or something like that, or maybe even down from Willesden. But they would go a long distance, and Warrington was one of them because they there was a coil train that would go from there, because it would come from the D Marsh stuff down to Warrington, and then the 37s would come off, and then it'd be replaced by a couple of 86s later in 90 to go up the West Coast Main Line up to Moss End Yard. And, well, those locos would be used on intercity trains sometimes. They would be used on parcel trains, and they would be used on freight. So rather than have a individual color scheme, they came up with mainline. Now, that was if it was going to be used on passenger and parcel stuff. If it was used between different freight sectors, there was the Rail Freight General logo, which, funnily enough, you can just see in the background here. So there are a few 86s, and 5149 carried it as well. And it was used on a variety of things. So all mainline is something that could be used between. So many parcel locos were painted in mainline livery because at the weekend, when less parcel traffic ran, they would use them on diversions over unelectrified lines on the West Coast Main Line, because they were the locos were spare, and and also electric locos may have their repairs done during the weekend when there was less need for them, because during the day, Monday to Friday, constantly busy. On the weekend, less traffic. It's the reason why they do all the weekend works on there. So anyway, so back to what I was talking about, and sadly I apologize for the state of this magazine, but in 1992 they repainted 3 Class 90s in Belgian, German, and French color scheme. So this one's based on the Cybic loco, and so, and you can see how it looked quite cool actually. My favorite one was the German one when it had the yellow ends on, and so here they are outside Crew Electric Depot, and that just looks fantastic, doesn't it? And in my transfers, in fact, wait a second. I just happened to have them right here because I was doing some modelling the other day. And yeah, I have a big bucket full, just absolutely full of transfers that I picked up over the years. And I just happen to have right here the transfers for this is the French one, very, very simple livery. There's the German one, and this is the Belgian one. So yeah, like I say, I've got a lot of transfers in here. So many things, many of them that you can't even get anymore. I mean, there's the Royal General ones. I've got ones that, I mean, these ones are about 20 years old now. These are res ones, although I've got some new ones since. Some express parcels, so like I say, I've got so many central services. Even things like these haven't been in production for a long time. These are Craftsman, not Craftsman. These are Cambrian transfers. So yeah, these are just wagon transfers I've put together in a big pile, although I've got other ones as well. Some ancient rub-on transfers. So, like I say, I have a lot of different stuff over the years. I got a few packs of these. These are for doing TTA tanks, some Shell TTA tanks. I've even got things like Centro. Most of these are Fox transfers, some Network Northwest, which are only ever on 152s. And some of these little ones could be found on Pacers. So, like I say, lots of stuff. A number of parcel ones. And somewhere in here, I've even got some Freightliner liveried ones. So yeah. Anyway, the top. So yeah, at some point, I would like to do that. Now, I was talking about the nameplates for 90022. So 4 locos were named Freight Connection. 9128 was painted in Belgian colors, as I showed you already. But after the photo shoot, they were put into service and continued to carry the names. It was basically Freight Connection in Belgian, so Wreckverbunding, and they could, they were used in all sorts of departmental stuff. Profit distribution things. All these ones. Usually open days, if they were brought there, they would have 3 of them together, sometimes even all 4. In fact, I do think some in one of these pictures, maybe it's just 129, and I always thought this was the best one, in my opinion. And this was the first time I saw it. This is my photo at Leicester Open Day in 1992. And I just like the little red edging on it. It's a nice touch. So, yeah. And then the French one. And like I say, this is based upon the Cybic. Yeah, so sadly it ended up having different type numbers on him, because originally they used to be down here. And just for those people who don't already know, so people may wonder about 9130 instead of 030. So Beckman have just brought out the new Class 90, and one of the things that happened with the 90s was that they were divided into 2 sectors initially, then it was later 3. So there was like mixed traffic. If I go back to my 90 book of 91, I think it was 9. It might have been 89 actually. So I'll look at 89. So glasses. Getting old, need my glasses. So yeah, so in 1990 they were just going into traffic. You can see that only these ones had actually been delivered into traffic. Yeah. So it's 1990 is the one I'm thinking of then. So if you can see, you've got the different sectors here. Okay, so it's got, the livery there, and then the sectors and the depot. Now, so the first 15 were in were intercity, purely intercity work, and usually they're in the IWCA pool, which is Intercity West Coast pool. Also, there were a few in the IPSA full pool. IPSA was for Pullman services. So Pullman services had more first class stuff. There were only like 3 or 4 coaches that were standard class, but they'd have like 4 or even 5 first class coaches, including the brake coaches, the 1-7. Let me show you. Takes my computer a few seconds to find stuff. They didn't come without windscreen wipers. 90s have windscreen wipers. They're just under a valance, so they just pop up. And what they tuck out of sight, because when you're going fast, the faster you go, and also they've got that kind of overhang, so it can pull them off. They'll start flapping around and then break off, and then you can't really use them if it's rainy. And of course, they go like to places like Manchester, and it rains in the north. So Mark 3s, just here. West Coast Main Line. and BFO. So BFOs, and there are only ever 3 of them made. It opens. Again, takes a couple of seconds. There you go. So they're basically first-class coaches with a break section. So there's a guard's office and an extended luggage area for, so often where they put bikes and things. They built them before they built DVTs, but they were used on Pullman sets. So they didn't have to have a BG with them, although frequently they did anyway. And so, yeah, they were used on Pullman sets. So I'm going to go back to 90022. Oh, that's a diesel. Wrong one. 90 modeling. 90022 and rubber distribution. Actually, I'll show you what this is. What it looked like when it was first built. So it carried standard intercity livery. There it is on the charter train, and it was just yeah. So okay. So IPCA pull, which was for Pullman trains, and then there was the RXLE, later PXLE, and then back to RXLE as it became Rail Express, and that was used for parcel stuff. Later is extended from 16 to 20, but and many of the other ones were FGQW. If we zoom to the back, these are really useful books to get. If you model specific times, get yourself some of these books, because you can see what jobs things did. It helps. So FGQW, Railford Distribution Willesden Class 90 locos. Now, so those were rail freight ones. Well, one of the problems that they had is that all the 90s were built with electric train heating and the rubber plate on the end. So if we look at this picture on a parcels train, so you can see it's got the rubber plate there and the big Buckeye coupler. It's a drop head Buckeye. So you just, you lift it up and you stick a big pin in it to stop it from falling out. But you can couple up to coaches, and it's a more stable strength thing. This is the reason why they've got these retractable buffers, because when they're coupled up to a train, they would rotate the buffers and retract inside, project further, pull further backwards. And that meant that the rubber plate would attach to the bottom of the corridor connection at the end of a coach. So, and that would just give a more stable connection. There was a lot less bumping around. It wasn't based upon the springiness of the buffers anymore. It was a much stronger, more stable connection. Less bumping around. Excuse me, just taking a drink. So and so this loco, and I'm doing 23 in this condition, rather dirty condition rather than this picture, but they worked on the East Coast Main Line with Mark IV sets. So yeah, that's a really useful thing. Does mean that Dave Class 47 can do this, so he'll be happy. He's not going to be using East Coast Mainline stuff on his West Coast Mainline stuff on his East Coast layout. He can actually make it work. Although they didn't really get to Glasgow very much, they'll be mainly used on Leeds services. So so then you had the mainline ones, and then the Railfreight Distribution liveried ones. Now, when they first put them into traffic, they had to have mileage accumulation things. It's kind of hard to do with freight stuff, so they use them on, and they were all built the same as 9001 to 050. Well, Intercity, it was, the Princess service, whereas rail freight and special, parcels, and especially, parcels is also a bit of a Cinderella kind of one. Sorry, is a bit of a princess kind of one, because parcel trains were classed as class 1 trains. So when you get, if you look at old pictures, and you got the head code and it's like 1M34 or something like that, a class 1 train is a high speed, important, it's an intercity train. But parcel trains were also considered that as well, because, the prestige of getting parcels there by tomorrow kind of thing. First class post, that's why it's called first class. So, that's why the TPOs and parcel trains were generally class 1 trains. Well, then, resolution's a bit rubbish on my video there. Oh, that's better. I don't know why I wanted to play it in 144. I watch the live stream while it's going on, just so I can keep up with people leaving comments. Anyway, so with Intercity being the princess of the the railways, if they were short on traction, they could just borrow things, and Railway Distribution had a bit of a problem because Intercity kept nicking their locos on a day-to-day basis. Because with any new loco, sometimes it takes a little while for them to, get the niggles sorted. You frequently get teething problems, and the 90s were amongst them. So, okay, so Contemporary Railway Scenes asks, in your last video with wagons, I see you model with the air hoses in between. Previously, metal modelers have chosen not to model them as they look a bit odd just hanging. What's your take on this? So I model them. I always put them on. I think they add to a model. But of course, when they're between something, you can't really see them that well. When they're at the back of the train, then it's nice to have them showing. So, although it's true they are hanging when they're coupled together, and really they should be together. Now, I have seen modelers who take some rubber hose or of some kind. I've seen it done with thick fishing wire, also elastic, just so it just sort of hangs around. It can move about. But also, I've seen people put tiny magnets on the ends, so when they couple up with something, they'll just snap together, which is kind of cool. But I think that's a bit too much. That's a bit too finicky. And I use KD couplers, and even that's not realistic. I find them function better than tension locks. But, it's still not realistic. Maybe if I did, proper working hooks, then maybe I'd do that. So, yeah, so Intercity kept having their locos nicked. And so what they did was they decided, you know what, that's really annoying. So we're going to renumber them. And so they did. So they renumbered them in the, they made them some tiny modifications. So let's just find a good shot. So we'll keep going with this 9130. It's a couple of years after it was painted. I think this is the 1994, I think it was, Crew Electric show. Maybe it was 95. But one of the things they did was they, the electric train heating, they removed the plugs from them. You can see there's no cable there. Normally they'd have the cable hanging underneath for the electric train heating. Well, they isolated the electric train heating. so that it wasn't usable anymore. And also, they removed the rubber plate and used these big triangular shaped covers to hide them. And they removed the drop head Buckeye, so they could rescue a train, but they couldn't heat it. And they also reduced the speed limit to 75 miles per hour. So that reduced the likelihood that Intercity would borrow them anymore. It made them somewhat unusable, but not completely unusable. It was basically the idea of souring the milk. Let's make them not quite as useful as you would like. So in the end, parcels usually ended up being asked to take them over. So out of these 4 European 90s that came out, 90022 was became Freight Connection. And if we go back to 90022, so here it is as I'm going to model it, which is in Railfreight distribution. But unlike the Bachmann model, they don't have the yellow going up the sidebar there. They've got it painted black. So you can easily, when I get a Railfreight distribution 90, I'll be able to do it exactly like this, and have it with and I'm going to model it. You can just see that this is in 93. You can see, and you can see how the rubber plate has been removed, and so is the drop head Buckeye, but it's still got the electric train heating plug wire there, so it can still be used. So I'm going to be modeling like this, and I'll be modeling an Intercity version like it as well as 23. So yes, so a 90O still has the electric train heating working and still rated at 110 miles per hour. Hello, Sparky, how are you doing? So yeah. So that nameplate will be used for that. So out of the 4 locos, 90022 was Freight Connection, the British one. The Belgian one, Belgian liveried one, was Vretverbunding. The German one was Frachtverbunding Enden, and then Freight Connection was the French one. So, and I would like to do all 4 in the European colors, because that would look cool. And I'm sure I have a picture of there was a there it is. It was the opening of the Trafford Park Railfreight distribution one, had all 4 of the European 90s there. So 90022, Freight Connection, 9130, 128, and 129. You can see they've got nice white-walled wheels, and the extra pipe work painted in white and, with blue springs. So I'd like to have them like that. I'll chuck a little bit of dirt on them, but make them look nice. So yeah, that's the nameplates that I bought there. I already have the nameplates for the other ones. And then the other things that I bought was I bought 2 packs of Class 20 roof fan and grill sets. So I've got a number of Class 20s, and what I intend to do is to work through them and maybe do a loco once every month or 2 or something like that, and just upgrade it when I start doing these things. So I want to take a pair of 20s and do them up. I may even take the Hornby TTS sound decoders in them. And then I bought some shore plan window frames. So I bought some Mark 1 window frames. So these are for TSOs and FOs. And generally, I don't put the window frames on because it becomes very expensive and you end up having to repaint them generally. But there's a couple of coaches that I want to do that are a little bit different. And if we just go over there. So on Mark 1s, let's just take these, for example. You can see the window frames, and like I say, I'd have to repaint them all, which is a bit of a nuisance. But a couple of coaches that I want to do departmental modeling, barrier vehicles, and it's these ones. So these are barrier vehicles used for delivering or taking for overhaul. They are these are Mark 1 TSOs, but they've had some new doors put into them. The rest of the windows have all been plated, and and they've got a couple of window frames that stick out. And so, because I'm going to be doing the work to fill all the body sides and stick in the doors, I am still going to need to have these window frames sticking out and visible. So that's how it's going to operate, like that. And these ones were first done when the class 319s were built, which had quite a broad red stripe. And later on, they put the normal height stripe on. But you can see how the end corridor, the corridor ends have been filled. They've been given, high-level pipes for, for hauling things like, 455s and Southern Region-based stock, as well as, as well as electric train heating, plugs and jumpers as well. So where I've taken class 33 ones and used them to make 33Os, I've got the spare pipes. So I've already got these pieces available, although I think the length of the pipe is a bit longer on these, but I might be wrong. So yeah, they'll be useful. I've got a single Bratchel 456, so I can use them for doing that, for dragging that around. I love 456s. They're kind of cool. And to show you what I mean about the stripes, just allow me to show you a 319 and then a 455. So EMUs, overhead, second gen, 319, NSE. So originally, they were delivered in angled network southeast. So you can see how there's a sharp corner to there, and they use the lighter blue of network southeast. And then later on, they just tweaked it a bit. And there's a curve to the edge, and they used a slightly darker blue because the lighter blue it faded quite a lot in the sun. So yeah, it just worked out a lot better, and I must say I do prefer the dark grey version of Network Southeast on the 319s compared to the lighter grey on other ones, and 321s, things of that nature, 442s. And I like the contrast. Also, it's easier to keep them clean. But also, I like the way that the color, the red goes through the door, and then that small window, it breaks up the stripe there. Whereas if we compare it to the light grey version of Network Southeast, oh sorry, that's not the one I was looking for. I was looking for 91s, 3191s. So with the 3191s, you can see how they've moved. They got a lot more white on them. In fact, wait a second. There you go. You can see the difference. They've got to move the red stripe further over. But I quite like the big separation on the end. It just gives it more contrast. So that's why I prefer the darker Network Southeast. Now, for the 455s, 456s, so 456s were originally designed to take to work with 455s. Let me show you 455 so you get the idea first. So 455s are basically, EMUs with a corridor connection in. 150s, 319s, and 455s have the same type of body. 152s. Well, the 150 in general, York-based EMUs, all have largely the same center section from there backwards. But they have different cabs. So back when these were made, it was very, very functional. The mentality was, you just need a hole for the driver to see out of, and light some things and pipes. Because the southern region were odd. They really were odd. Despite the technology of the 317s, where they had, a rubber plate with all the electrical connections, so you could just shunt a couple together, lock them in, and then they would work together as a multiple team, as multiple units. The southern region decided differently. They wanted them to, an emergency, be able to couple them up to the Mark 1 based EMUs. So they used these pipes, brake pipes, and multiple working cables on the end. And they hardly ever used them other than to couple units together. So it was a stupid thing to do, in my opinion. And that was one of the reasons why, when it came to the Class 455s, they were based on the Class 321s with, the plastic end. But they had to put the pipes on to work with the 455 so that they could make 10-car trains. So 2 4-car units and a 2-car unit stuck on the end. Although, weirdly, in practice, they started to use them as like 3 units together, or 2 units together. So yeah, but I like them. It's like a 3-1. It's like a 3-2-1, but with kind of like sad eyebrows over the lights, over the head, over the eyes. I almost look at them like eyes, And I also like, again, the dark grey and that separation. So I really like them. They're no use to my layout because I don't do southern, I don't do southern region or third rail. But I decided that to work with those coaches. Crikey, my live stream is running really late, delayed behind. I'm gonna have to reset. Sorry about this. I'm looking at my second screen, and it just keeps going round and round, recycling. I'm going to lower the resolution for it. There we go. Okay, that way I can keep an eye on what people are asking. Okay, general formula yellow coaches by round each end. Yeah. Anyway, okay, so having a couple of coaches, barrier vehicles and a loco to take them from York down towards the southern region, going through, the Leeds, Doncaster area, that would fit quite nicely. So that's what I want to do with that. And then, so that's what these Mark 1 frames are for. And then I've got a set of Mark II B, a Z, A, B, or C. It doesn't say C. I don't know why, but the frames are the same largely. And these are for converting some coaches, because I would like to get. I'd like to have some different Mark IIs, rather than ones that only the ones you can get at the moment. So I would like to have like some of the ones you used to get on the West of England line. I'd like to have a Mark II C BFK like this. So they've got the larger vents on the roof, the bits between are modified, and it's a longer coach. Now, fortunately, the current Hornby brake coach, which I have one. Yes. Excuse me a moment. So, coaches, like many things, have evolved. And so the Mark II and Mark IIA have shorter bodies than the other ones. But over time, they were modified. Now, this is the Hornby Mark IIe, which I'm going to be converting into a Mark II. So I'm giving it an overhaul. It's going to be a Mark IIe, but I'm going to modify the chassis so it properly fits, which the original Hornby model didn't. And also the vents are way too big. So I've got some 3D printed ones, which I'm going to be replacing with. And I'm going to turn this into a more, a more realistic model. And not only that, bought them from Hattons for £17, and you can't go wrong for that price. Well, I need a few more coaches in the Mark II Bs and Cs range, and so I'm going to buy some more coaches and convert them. And so the idea is that you take a coach like this and put the I'm going to use the small windows for now, but you can replace the window frames with the bigger ones like this. So you just carve the hole bigger and put the new frame in like that, and then have your glazing sitting behind it. So that'll work. And for the standard body side windows, these will, you make the hole bigger and fit them like that. So that's the plan for these. Because it's the old story, isn't it? There are some things that we've got and other things we don't have yet. And if they don't exist, well, you can sit around moaning that they don't exist, or you can do something about it. And I'm the kind of person who likes to do things about it. So, and not only that, there's a kind of inner prestige of saying, yeah, I've got one of these and nobody else has, because I like to do modeling. And so the last set that I bought is a set of BG window frames, which is only 4 each side. And I have a thing for parcel coaches. I really like parcel trains. They add so much colour to the railway in the period that I model. So you've got everything from plain blue, blue grey, intercity, Network Southeast, parcels livery, res livery, plain red livery. So even a few oddities like ScotRail livery, and airliner BGs and things like that. So one of the types that I want to do is a newspaper van. So like this. So newspaper vans are standard BGs, and what they did was they sealed up a set of doors and they put lift up tables so they could sort, and pile up the newspapers. And so there they were, they lift up tables. So they would delete the guards, they're called BG, baggage guards. So they remove the guards compartment and they put a brake wheel underneath. And then they fill in a set of doors. And like I say, they've got these lift up tables. There was secured tables rather. Some other ones had lift up tables, but so yeah. Now I'm going to do a plain BR blue one like this. It might be this one actually. Let me have a look at my model list for a second. So things that are in blue are ones that I've got. I'm just scrolling down for parcels. Okay, parcels. It was one of them. BG newspaper. There you go. There it is. That one. So 95220. Yeah, but it looks like this. It's just a plain BG, and of course, when you've got something that's plain like this, the window frames kind of stick out. You can see how the window frames stick out on a plain body side. And since I'm going to be converting it anyway, by filling in the doors and everything, you can also see, and it's very slight, you can see it's got the reinforcing plates because one of the areas of corrosion that you get on Mark 1 coaches was where the body met the chassis. And so they'd frequently put, some just some metal strip at the bottom to reinforce the edges, stop it getting quite easily degraded, rusting underneath. So as I said, because they've got quite visible frames on them, I'm going to do the extra work. And I also want to do it like this as well with the parcels, newspapers. Sorry, the newspapers lettering painted over. But I'm going to do it a little less obvious as this. So I'm doing it in a slightly more reversed version, where you'd have a vehicle that has got a bit patchy. It's been through the carriage washer a lot of times, and as a result, the body side's got a bit faded over time. So, and then when they paint, BR blue over the top of it or whatever color, it ends up looking darker because it's not rubbed off the outer layers. So you end up with the showing through. You end up with the patch looking darker, or sometimes in this case lighter. Well, what I'm going to do I'm going to put some I'm going to put the transfer on, and then I'm going to varnish it, and then I'm going to go over the top. I'm going to put a piece of masking tape around it, and I'm going to airbrush it on somewhat lightly so you can just about make out the newspaper lettering underneath. And then you know, and then it'll look faded. Then I get to put all the other transfers on to make it look a bit better. So, like I say, the work that needs doing to this is to fill in the doors, put some strip on at the bottom, and then you know, stick on the window frames. And then it's just going to be down to painting and putting on some extra details like the, you know, the cables and things like that. So yeah, so it's something to add a little bit more interest to it. So so yeah, that's what I bought. And the sad thing is that I didn't have a lot of money. I bought a new air compressor this year, so or you know, just before, and it's like, do I need the air compressor more than I need to spend another 50 quid at a model railway show. So I bought an air compressor. So I only had £100 spare to spend when I got there. And it was, and I blew nearly half of it just at Shoreplan, just to do up a few vehicles. So you know, but like I say, the hobby's so expensive nowadays that going to a show like that, you're not always going to get a bargain on a stand. You might get something good price on the second-hand stand, but not new. So it's like, you know what, I'm gonna do that. But I did come home. Well, nearly came home, I think is probably a more accurate wording. I almost came home with something else, and that was, and let me just find it. I almost came home with the Graham Farish. Let me just show you this. Just wait for it to open up. I almost came home with this. It's a train set thing, and it came with a 47, a Mark II TSO, and a Mark I RMB, and Mark II BSO, which puts it on the Great Eastern line out of London Liverpool Street to Ely and Kings Lynn. So I, because being one of them, you know, being a member of DEMU, at the end of the show, we have the AGM, the annual general meeting for the society, and I'm on the committee of it, so I kind of have to go. But when it came down to the AGM, we have all the minutes and stuff like that. But the organisers, they they blag some items off some of the people who attend the show, and we have a raffle. And so last night we had that from Graham Farish, donated by Bachmann, a Class 47 in Dutch livery, donated by Bachmann as well, a couple of Revolution trains, Engage Mark II, some twin IWA vans, I think they were called, but they're the cargo wagon twins vans in Engage. From Revolution Trains. Someone, I can't remember who, they had a car set, a toy car thing, a diecast car, and Cavalex donated one of their Redland hoppers. So I was fortunate. I won something in a raffle. I had the number 82 ticket, which is kind of ironic because, a buddy of mine sat next to me. I sort of hinted at the idea of swapping because he had 81 and they lasted longer. And, he didn't win anything and I did with the number that I didn't really, associate with quite as much. And ended up winning that. And it's like, yay. But of course, problem with it was like, it was shrunk in the wash. And so it was no good to me. And, I thought about turning it into a giveaway for but the person who I got a lift back to Burton-on-Trent with, he does Engage, and I said, hey, would this be any use to you? So I sold it to him for 100 quid. So in the next day or two, he'll be sending me 100 quid or whatever, 100 quid through the bank transfer, and I'll probably use that to buy myself my first class 90 because at the moment I've got no money. So yay, I'll probably have a 90 in about 10 days time, or 2 weeks time. So yeah, that's what I did. And like I say, Showcase, it's a great show. If you've never been before, I really suggest it. I met with a bunch of great people, including a few YouTubers. I can't remember his name. I've forgotten. I'm terrible with names. But I met the chap from N Trains. I met up with Richard from New Junction, and also Dave Class 47. We met for the first time. I've gone and lent him a few pieces of rolling stock that he will be using on his layout. And I've got some more stuff that I'm going to send to him, but I didn't get it finished or couldn't find other bits. And the thing, and it was really nice being able to meet them for the first time. Now I kind of worry. I have a sort of niggle in my head that I kind of went a bit overboard, because I see a number of big name YouTubers, and most of the stock that you see on their layouts is out of the box. They went to a shop and they bought something, they put it on the layout, and they yay, and it's great and everything. But one of the goals that I have for this channel is to introduce to them and to you, the viewers, skills that have been lost, skills that are really useful even today, but don't get used very much anymore. So just a simple example, this loco that I was talking about earlier, that I'm going to take this loco, and rather than just, get it out of the box or in this case, put this body on another model, on another chassis, instead of just running it as it is, I'm going to paint the nameplates black, the etched nameplates that will go on it. So I'm going to paint those black. I'm going to put depot plaques and arrows. I'm going to put some small numbers on. I'm going to put black head codes on. And I'm going to give it a bit of a weathering as well, So I'm going to take a ready-to-run model, and I'm going to add some stuff to it. I'll put a proper roof fan and grill set in as well. But I'm going to take a normal ready-to-run loco, and I'm going to turn it into something a bit more, because I can then run this on my layout and say, look at that. That's not just the same as everybody else who went to the shop at about the same time I did. It's not the same person, it's not the same as everybody else who's got one of these running on their layout. Mine looks different. Mine is different to everybody else's. Mine's special in a way, And so you can always have pride of that. So I was talking to Dave Class 47 and Richard and the chap from N Trains. I've forgotten his name. Terribly sorry. I was kind of talking. I'm effectively trying to infect them. I've got a disease called excitement about detailing stuff. And I'm trying to pass that bug onto them. I'm trying to infect them with the same thing, and get people thinking, you know what? Yeah, you can take a bog standard loco and push it. And, just take it a little bit more. You can take it a little bit or a little bit further, or you can just go really bonkers, And just to give you an illustration of the kind of stuff I've been doing lately, this is a Class 26 that I painted and detailed. And, just to give you an idea, I don't know how well you'll be able to see it. Let me just take... I can take off the autofocus because my camera, the system, it works to try and take my face. But can you see the lamp irons on the front there? How how much thinner they are compared to the one that normally comes on it. I've gone and done the extra work on the roof here. And there's the roof fan, and you can the roof grill, and you can just about see the roof fan underneath. And then the body side grills, they've got a lot of depth behind them. They're not just the flat ones that you normally get. I mean, those diagonal bars, they are actual pieces of plastic card behind the edge, the frame. And you can just about make these diagonal bars going across there. Those are actually just thin pieces of wire about 2 or 3 mil behind the body. So, like I say, I've taken a bog standard loco and I've added extra detail to it. And this at the moment, the chassis is well off being done. At the moment, it's got a new circuit board in it that I'd made, and a lens gold decoder on it. And I don't know why that. Go on. There it is. Oh gosh, Dunge, you're never going to believe this. This is quite funny. For some reason, it didn't want to show your comment there because I'm guessing it thought it was a swear word. Unfortunately, that's not how you spell how. What you spelt was ho, and I think it thought you were swearing or being derogatory. But here's an example on the roof. Can you see how I've got like the fiberglass panel? So yeah, this is going to be a beautiful piece of work when it's all done. I need to give it another coat of varnish to brighten it up a little bit because it's looking a bit dim at the moment. But at the moment, undercoated are all the other parts, including these. These are roof. These are the radio roof pods that were stuck on plates, and these need to be painted first before I glue them down. So yeah, things like that. And on the underframe, I've gone and recess the center springs more because the Helgen model, they've got them in line with the normal, the normal axle suspension area, whereas the center is much more set back. And you can see I've just used some L-shaped, section with a bit of plastic card to just, cut the springs off and recess them back, so they're going to look much more realistic by comparison. So yeah, it's going to look fantastic when it's done. But unfortunately, despite spending the best part of 2 days and no sleep the night before the show, I wasn't able to get it done in time. And, I had some mistakes happen, so I needed to modify things. Looks great, Laura. I'm working on 26034. I'm trying to avoid a complete repaint if I can, as time is short with the working shift work on the big railway. Yeah, I mean, you can do. What you can do. The problem with 26034, one of the rail freight liveried ones. Was 26034 in rail freight livery? I don't remember it being in rail freight livery like that. Let me just check. If it wasn't 24 or 37. I don't know why my head. Very old. Ah, that's not old, that's coal. That's weird. Did I forget to do a page? 15. I think I missed it. Didn't do a page. 24. I don't remember 24 being in that livery. That's weird. (26:024), 25, 26, 31, 32, 34. You sure it's not 30? Oh, wait a minute. Oh, he said 34. Sorry. Yeah, I'm in red silver. So, yeah, I mean, there is a way to do it. The only problem is with that livery is they got the grey wrong. The grey is completely wrong. The grey that should be used for old rail freight livery is this grey. It's charcoal is the color, and in fact, if we go to my channel, videos. So if we go to the first part of my upgrade, in fact, this is the 26 body that I'm working on at the moment before I did the body side grills. And you can see that the color is way out by comparison. I'm going to turn this back up for a second. There we go. You can see how much difference there is in the gray. Helgen have never been able to get the dark gray right. They've got this just much too dark a shade. And so, you know, in my opinion, I would always repaint it. Okay, Richard, hi Laurie, just to say 47581 is now becoming 47802 in West Coast livery, as it has at least the same buffer beam. I haven't checked the underframe tanks yet. Well, the tanks for 47802 will be the twin tank version. So single tank version. So it's not an extent. It's like battery boxes with a fuel tank around one of the battery boxes. 47581. Now I'm not sure about 47581. What's that like in? Wait a minute. 47581 was. Let's have a look. That was one of the res locos. So it was a 47.7. 763. Okay. When 47581 became 47763, it had a single additional fuel tank put around it. So it became a single tank loco as opposed to batteries only or twin tank. Twin tank being one was for fuel, one was for water, for the old days, steam heat boiling days. So yeah, that would work. It's weird that it become 47802 because 47802 already existed, and I don't know what does it still exist in the real thing. I don't even know. 47802, because it was 552 originally. Bottom here. I can't even remember if 47802 survived like that. Let's do the old-fashioned research stuff. Let's go to the Class 47 website, which is a really useful one. class47.co.uk, and let's have a look at it. Really good website. You can see there's the link at the top, and numbers 47.4, and then it's 802. Now I remember it being Intercity logo. Yeah, it still exists as what's it? It's weird that it be done like that. So there's going to be 42 47802s running around. That'd be weird. That is odd. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, okay, so okay, contemporary railway scenes asks, I may have missed in a previous video how you did the fiberglass on the Class 26. Could you possibly do a recap? Okay. I haven't done a video on it. It will be something that I'll be doing when I do my Class 26s. I did this before I did the 26. Sorry, before I did the Class 33. So, so here's one of my 33s. This is half done. Well, probably about a quarter done, actually. So I've got to put all the framework and all the detailing in these next. And then when I've done that, then I can do the roof fan and the body side grills. I'll do them together because they're largely the same thing, use the same techniques. So I did the 26 before, and I actually recorded video footage of me doing the conversions, but I was using the video camera that you're now looking through to see me now. Well, the resolution is okay, but it's nothing compared to my video camera. Which is a 1080p, 1920 by 1080. You know, so the resolution is much better, and the quality, likewise, is much better. I mean, let's see if I can show it you, because you might get an idea that way. So. No, I can't show it at the moment. It would appear that it's corrupted. I've got a bit of problem from my computer. My power supply is a bit iffy, and sometimes the hard drive keeps going off, annoyingly. Okay, so oh yeah, the rail match looks fine for it. Anyway, so so what happened was I did this first, and then later on I was going to move on to the 33s as a set of videos. And because they're largely the same thing and use largely the same techniques, it made sense to, you know, I'm going to do this loco up anyway, and you know, follow the 33s for making the proper video. And because you know, I'd already done this work, doing the body side grills, because I'd already done the roof grill. It made sense for me to do this now. So work that I did on it was all these little ventilators. They're a bit too narrow. You know, if we, I know they're different classes, but they are largely the same. If you compare the distance on them, you can see they're too close together. But so I modified all the distancing from them, and also remade these panels as well. So I just redid all the roof panels details, all the roof detail. The for the fiberglass panel. So for those who don't realize this already, on the roof of many diesel locos, they've got a fiberglass panel so the light can get through, so maintenance workers can get in and just check pressures or whatever it is they have to do in the engine room section, and it just gives them the ability to be able to see. And if I show you what it's like on the inside of a loco, let me just go. See, we're from the inside of 26. Okay, let's try 33s then. Pretty sure there's one in there. Oh, okay. Well, you can't really see it, but here's a picture of the inside. Of a roof, a section of Class 33 roof that's been removed, and you can see how how you've got strip inside, and then the fiberglass over the top of it. And so as a result, with all the crap that gets kicked off by the engine, you can see how you're going to end up with the dark bits. This is going to be darker than the bits where where the splat doesn't go. So on the outside, when we look at a loco, you can see how you get this kind of darker effect in the middle. And so I wanted to replicate that. So that's what I'm basically doing. And all I've done is I've just put strip, painted a roof color, and then marked over, some bits so it shows through. So that's it. I've just cut tiny strips, laid them over the top, masked it off, airbrushed. So you got a darker bit, then you've got a lighter bit. And I think it works out quite nicely. But so, oh, sorry. Hi, Richard. Sorry, I didn't realize. Hey, Richard, I should have mentioned you earlier on in this. So, so yeah, like I say, I've done the class 26 first, and then I'm going to follow up with the class 33s, and gaining the experience on how to do the grills, because you might be surprised to know I may be an expert on noticing things, but there are many things that I've never actually done in model form before. I understand the theory, and I'm pushing out my abilities at the same time. I mean, in doing this, I made a few mistakes. I found that the glue that I was using wasn't working for the technique I wanted to do. I needed something a bit more gloopy. Other things that I'm perfectly adequate at doing. I mean, like an example of a technique that I use. So you've got to prime something. This is a brass etch, as you can see. These there you go. So this is a brass etch with some mesh on, and just so you can see what they're like. What you get is the outer rings pieces, and then these are the inner pieces for the roof fan itself. Now, and then you've got this, which is the mesh, and the mesh is literally foil, so it's the same kind of stuff that you might have, on the shaver for a razor. It's a flexible nickel silver piece of foil. Now, when you paint, and this, the Shoreplan one is such a nice thin mesh. The problem is if you spray your aerosol can on that, it's too much paint splatting on heavily, and that you're going to fill the holes. You're going to splat, all this heavy duty stuff on, and that might be fine if you're just undercoating a model like this. But when you're doing it over something that's really fine detail, you end up obscuring some of that detail by having too much heavy stuff on. So what I do is I take my aerosol can and I spray some into a jar, a container of some kind, and then I'm going to slice myself somehow. I don't know what I've done there. Oh, I did fall on something yesterday, didn't I? Yeah, that's probably that. Anyway, so what I do is I empty some into a container, and then I pour the stuff out of that into my airbrush, and I airbrush it on a lower pressure so that I'm not layering it on too heavily. It's not about the material; it's about how heavily you're splatting it on. If you water down paint, then you can get it to go better, to flow smoother than something that's too thick. So yeah, like I say, that's the work I've done on that so far. And at the moment I've got a plain chassis, which is just all I've gone and done is paint the wheels with a matte black, and then I've got all the underframe parts here, which will be put on, and I've got some more modifications to be done to them, and add some extra detail. I've also got to put KD couplers on. They've got the snow plows. I've got to make a bit of a compromise for this because I use the KD coupling draft box, and the center snow plow is going to have to be cut into 2 pieces to be able to make it work. Yeah, that's more work that I've got to do. That will take a few weeks to get that done, but it'll be fantastic when it's done. It'll be a piece of art. And then this loco will be going up to Dave Class 47, so you'll be able to see it running on his layout, because my layout doesn't really exist very much at the moment. At the moment, I've got some plywood. I've got some chipboard on a frame nailed onto the wall, and it's kind of not very good. I built a club layout since then, and that was looking better. Well, sorry, I built the baseboards for a club layout, or the back section of a club layout, and those are things that I'll be doing. Unfortunately, I'm quite poor. I'm disabled. I'm on benefits, and so I don't have a lot of money anyway. So I make what I've got spread as well as much as I can. And so, although I've got a lot of things, I bought them, a number of years ago. Like when I bought these were £50 each, whereas now you'll be paying over 100 for one of these if you buy them new. And even then, I bought them at a bargain price. But chucking an extra like 15 quid at them to do them up, I think is reasonable cost. But I can do that over time. The time that I'm not spending, saving up for something. I mean, just an example would be Class 90s have just come out. That's kind of annoying because I was expecting Bachmann to take another couple of years before they brought them out, but they brought them out in a hurry. It only took them 5. It took them 5 years instead of like 7 or something. that they would normally take. So bit of a surprise that they came out just as I've managed to get a couple of Freightliner sets. Now I've got 90s to worry about, and I mean, right now as they come, I could do with 6. And at the moment, I can kind of just about afford 1, and that's only because I sold something to Richard W's at the side here. So yeah, that's the way things work. But like I say, that's one of the problems I have to deal with. You know, one of these days, I should be able to start buying some wood, and then start, buying track and nailing it down and things. So, well, I'm not gonna nail it down. I'll glue it. But anyway, so that's that was the show this weekend. That's some of the stuff I've been doing. Stuff that's to come. Like I say, I want to get some 90s. So that's my goal in the reasonable future. My money situation is a little bit fragile at the moment, because the DLA that I get at the moment is being changed to PIP, and the PIP system is weird and complicated, and they're basically refusing people that they never used to refuse to in the first instance, and when people challenge it, usually it goes through. I can't be sure whether that's going to happen for me or not. So that's that. Flats. I thought they had the Ride Master or whatever they were called. I thought they had one type, and that's all. But apparently there were several. So I'm going to get going, and I hope everyone has a good evening. And thank you for watching. Take care now. Bye bye.